For the first time in U.S. history, the United States Postal Service is now adding a fuel charge to every package that you ship because, well, why else? The Iranian war. Fuel costs have jumped more than 30% since Israel's war with Iran broke out. So now they will add this on top of your shipping cost. Imagine how, like if you're a small business and you're shipping items on a regular basis, you're not Amazon, adding on this additional fuel charge on top of that. Then this morning, the Financial Times reporting U.S. inflation will surge to 4.2% on energy shock, warns the OECD. Fuel lines around the world are getting very long. We've been covering, of course, what's been happening in Slovenia, parts of Europe, Australia, Thailand, the Philippines. It's just getting worse and worse. Many countries have run out of petrol, gasoline, or have declared now a state of emergency. President Putin of Russia just declared that the energy shock from this Iran war is having a devastating effect around the world, just like COVID. Here was his statement just a short time ago. Watch.
That is escalating, and it's making a more and more significant contribution to the global situation today, and it's dealing a great damage to the global logistic supply chains, production chains, and entire industries of the fuel production, fuel refinery. Our industries are getting these heavy blows, and it's difficult to predict what happens next because of this.
So Putin also, through his diplomatic team, are issuing a damning message about this war, that we are about to face an energy crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before. You don't want to hear that. And that Europe is going to be begging Russia for oil and gas. Too bad one of your pipelines was blown up by the United States government. But here is Dmitriev. Listen.
Но наше предсказание очень четкое, что Европа и Британия будут умалять российских энергоносителей, и Россия будет принимать соответствующие решения или их не принимать.
So it's really in their hands now. It's amazing how the tables have been turned, isn't it? Mike Adams is the founder of the Brighteon platforms, the Health Ranger. You might know him on X. I love following Mike on X because he just cuts through all of the BS and gets right to the heart of the matter. And Mike, great. Welcome back to the show. One of the areas you've been very focused on, of course, is fuel shortages, food shortages, and what the global impact of all of this is going to look like. Maybe you can just give us your 30,000-foot assessment before we get into more details.
Okay, sure. Great to join you again. Love your work. First of all, I would say that every major form of recognized abundance across our world comes from affordable, abundant energy. So energy is a primary driver of affordable food, which for many people translates into affordable families because you have to feed your kids in most countries, right? Hopefully. Also affordable transportation by plane or by car. So it's personal mobility, it's personal freedom. And food comes from energy. That's what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is how strongly every calorie of food that comes from a farm today is tied to energy inputs, and not just the fertilizer and the urea, which of course you've covered on your show, are now incredibly scarce because of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz and with Trump's war on Iran, but also because of the fuel for transportation and the fuel for the tractors to do the planting and harvesting, etc. So food is extremely hydrocarbon intensive. In fact, farming is really more of a rearranging of hydrocarbons with the help of photosynthesis. That's what farming really is. And a lot of people didn't realize just how devastating this would be when the Strait of Hormuz is now constricted. And I just want to remind you, I'll turn it back to you, but the Strait of Hormuz was open before Trump launched this war by choice. So it was open. So not only did the United States, as you said, destroy the Nord Stream pipelines affecting Western Europe and their affordable, abundant energy from Russia, now Trump has effectively, indirectly closed the Strait of Hormuz through his actions. And now he's probably desperately trying to figure out how to get it open again. But that's where we are. Until the Strait of Hormuz reopens, the world will suffer dramatically, economically, and through food scarcity.
Mike, you make a great point. In fact, we had a senator just a short time ago on the floor of the Senate making that exact point about the Strait of Hormuz. Watch this.
Here's the problem. The strait was open before the war began. We are now seeking to solve a problem that we created. This is insanity. $2 billion is a lot of money. That's the minimum amount of money that is being spent every single day on this war. There are over a dozen families who are burying their loved ones in the United States, and there may be dozens more if this war continues. Prices are skyrocketing, not just in America, but all across.
Hey, it's Ashley with 4 Patriots. We're in a bit of trouble. To put it plainly, we need to clear out some space.
Are skyrocketing, not just in America, but all across.
Someone in the chat says Chris Murphy's an idiot. In many ways, I agree with you, but what he's saying is true. Now, did Congress actually vote to end the war escalation? No. So we can't give Congress too much credit.
Right.
You wrote about how, the mobilization of ICE, the strategic closures of the TSA, and now the looming fuel and food shortages are not disparate things. You said these are visible threads of a deliberate, premeditated pattern, one that is weaving a trap to the American people. And you said that it will lead to national lockdowns of movement, food, and fuel. So can you play that out, please?
Yeah, that's where this is headed. Clearly, in my view, it's the same pattern as COVID, but now with a different justification. So already many countries are suffering so-called energy lockdowns. You mentioned some of them in the intro, but also, for example, in South Korea, you're only allowed to drive on certain days of the week if you're a government employee based on your vehicle license plate. In Australia, hundreds of petrol stations have run out now, and it's not clear when they're going to be replenished. What's going to come is government-controlled delivery of food and fuel. And this will encompass Americans, especially as prices get much higher and more job displacement takes place because of the AI displacement. And you just saw a humanoid robot walking around the White House. That's also part of the plan. That's why I have the AI background here today behind me. But as you have all this displacement, the public will scream for universal basic income, but the UBI will be tied, in my view, and Catherine Austin Fitts talks about this, and she's excellent on this subject. It'll be tied to a government-controlled CBDC that allows you to purchase a certain amount of food, but builds in the scarcity or the quota allowances through that digital control grid. And the same thing will happen with fuel, and also the same thing will happen probably with the number of kilowatt hours of energy that you're allowed to consume as a household. And interestingly, one of the off-ramps to that is to have your own off-grid solar power system and an EV, which is funny because Trump is becoming the world's greatest EV salesman now.
Right.
As more people are buying EVs. Go figure.
Well, you bring up a great point. This whole push, I couldn't help but thinking when we're seeing this TSA move, right, the long lines at the airports, all of this is tied together on these austerity measures. And just, I love this CNN headline here, Mike, from Asia. Asia embraces austerity. Right, Asians are thrilled about it. Look at this picture of this little girl. It's great. Asia embraces energy austerity.
We're fine with it.
As dire fuel shortages force Philippines to declare national emergency. They're all across Asia and now through Europe. We'll get to Europe in a minute. I want to unpack that, what Russia just said. But on the Asian side, it's very dire. But they're embracing this idea of austerity because they want to keep people home. That's been part of the plan all along.
Do you sort of see the racist undertones there as they're third world, they don't need much, so they don't know any better, is sort of what I read from a headline like that. What do you think?